Shiny object syndrome is something that affects a lot of you watching, and we want to explore right now the deeper underlying causes based on what other people have already identified the causes are. So as it is already 11:30 p.m., we will just take a look at what other people on YouTube have said about shiny object syndrome, and I will give my commentary on that so that I stay consistent with the daily upload.
Entrepreneur or leader of any kind, chances are you might have suffered from shiny object syndrome at some point in your life. You know the feeling. Some new opportunity arises, an idea sparks in your mind, or a trend or fad hits the scene, and you instantly want to take advantage of it, abandoning your other projects and running off into the sunset to chase the latest shiny object. So maybe you have 100 domain names registered for businesses you want to start someday, or maybe you have a slew of abandoned novel drafts on your computer, or maybe you've bought several online courses promising yourself that one day I'll get to it. With a prevalence.
That is a common theme, right? Is it not? That we buy all kinds of courses and information. And at some point we realize that it's oftentimes the courses are a broad overview of what to do and how to implement that. And a lot of people, I've seen that in the seminar world as well, buy courses, buy seminars, buy life experience because it makes them feel better in the short term because they crave the feeling of success and of progress, but they haven't really found a way to get themselves to the point where they commit to something exclusively. And so with that, let's keep going.
Of social media. It seems like there's some new it thing going around every week. It's easy to get FOMO and worry that you're missing out on the next big thing that could catapult you to success.
Fear of missing out is certainly a part of that. Another part is actually not only fear of missing out, but also the fear of success. One piece that I've seen with shiny object syndrome is that a lot of people do not want to commit to just one thing because the underlying fear is there that if I gave everything that I have and I did everything right, I would be narrow, I would be focused, one business, one offer, one avatar, and focusing only on that, and I would still not succeed. What would that then say about me? For a lot of people, there is this underlying unconscious fear that if I really showed myself the way that I am and I did everything right and I still would not succeed, then it would mean that I can't succeed. But rather, if I would still sabotage and do some things not quite right, it would give me some more time and I would also have an excuse for not succeeding. We want to be really clear about that. When these types of inner programs are running in somebody, we need to verbalize that and we need to reflect upon that. If you want to talk to me about that, write it in the comments or send me a connection request on LinkedIn. We can certainly talk about that. It is important that we verbalize that for somebody, because once you see that and once you speak that out with somebody, the shame and the fear around that will leave, and then you can see it for what it is, of just a faulty connection in your mind.
Entrepreneurs and creatives in particular suffer from shiny object syndrome and worrying about losing out. Those who have the initiative to start something like a business or a creative project are often good at taking risks and putting themselves out there to try something new. This drive to push boundaries usually works in their favor, but it can also cause...
Exactly. And Alex Hormozi also said that the very trait that has been reinforced in entrepreneurs for taking the first step of venturing out on their own into entrepreneurship, meaning basically leaving everything behind, making a cut, burning the boats, back to the wall, focusing on something new, has been reinforced with all of the status and all of the prestige that comes from being an entrepreneur. And going to networking meetings or telling your friends, well, yes, I'm a business owner, you immediately are elevated in status whether you are successful or not. So that is rewarding for people. Then immediately we need to stop that behavior and not pivot into something else. Now, in the beginning, oftentimes people try out different things and different ventures. But we also need to see that you can always pivot later by not pivoting. What I mean by that is if you pivot into a new opportunity, you basically go back to square one, and then you got to start all over by figuring out the avatar and the offer and what they need and what they really need and how do you articulate that. It's completely different. It's like selling gardening equipment and then you go become a real estate agent. Something very different. And then you pivot again, and then you want to sell B2B software solutions. It's something very different. It's a completely new skill set. Yes, some of that carries over, but very limited. Rather, if you're really aware to stick with the gardening, you can work your way up, and then you can go into IT with that foundation. Oftentimes, a lot of people underestimate the power of actually expanding later on if we just keep pursuing with this one path that we've chosen.
To fall into the trap of shiny object syndrome. Unfortunately, when we change our goals and projects too often, it can actually cause low self-esteem because we're conditioning ourselves to believe we can't actually finish anything. When you never accomplish the goals you set for yourself, you teach yourself that you don't have what it takes to follow through.
That is also true. Oftentimes, people suffer from shiny object syndrome because they accept that. I had that in my life a lot. Whether it is with lack of money or with women or with an unclean, dirty space. Now, that has changed now because I realized that pattern within myself. But before I was just accepting that. And you get more of what you accept. What you put up with and what you accept is what you're going to get more of. And so when people accept and it feels resonant to them that they can't finish anything, they will be okay with quitting and with pivoting again. It has to be, the outcome has to be clear, that you're not only working in order to learn and in order to progress, but to really get to the goal, having the goal clearly in mind and not being okay with giving up something. I had to put myself as well in a position where I truly had my back to the wall in order to succeed, because otherwise I was trying this and trying that and knowing the direction generally, but not quite. And I've seen this with a lot of other people as well. If it's not a must, it's very hard when you have this type of programming going on. That's why it's important to talk to somebody about that. And I don't mean to say that you need to hire a coach, although you can, but you have to talk to people that can also be a good friend of yours. You have to share with people what's going on, because when you only just talk about these things in your own head, they don't come out. You don't really reflect upon them. They just feed, the thoughts feed upon themselves. So it is very important to verbalize that in front of somebody else, because then you get to hear it and you have emotional benefits of sharing that.
That's why it's so important to make sure you're focused only on the things that really matter to you.
Exactly.
If you find yourself latching onto the next once-in-a-lifetime opportunity every few months, hitting the brakes on your old projects and swerving full speed ahead towards the next thing, you might be experiencing this particular affliction. But how can you pump the brakes and make sure you're choosing the right path, the right opportunities? How do you avoid chasing every new shiny object that comes your way and focus on the ones that really matter? The first step is to recognize shiny object syndrome. If you can identify that you're just chasing the next big thing instead of focusing on the truly important stuff, you're halfway towards eliminating shiny object syndrome. Ask yourself, have I finished any of the goals I've set for myself in the past month, in the past year, the past 5 years? If you reflect on your goals and find that you've abandoned most of them before crossing the finish line, there's a good chance you have shiny object syndrome. Evaluate your current projects and goals too. Are you working on them because they serve a higher purpose for you? Or are you chasing them because you want to fit in, seem cool, or because you think it will create a quick fix for your problems?
That is also a good point. Are we going after the objects, the shiny objects, because we believe that this is a better opportunity than what we have right now? And here, I really say it makes sense to talk to somebody that knows you very well, because it's not how hard you row, it is the boat you're in. So you really want to pick your opportunity wisely. On the other hand, any opportunity can get you probably to the life that you want, to the life of your dreams, to financial freedom.
Goals that aren't motivated by shiny object syndrome will feel authentic, and you're more likely to work on them until they're finished or make the informed decision to pivot. The next step is to slow down. Shiny object syndrome often occurs when we're going so fast, we don't take the time to evaluate every opportunity fully before committing. We see something that sounds good, and before even really thinking much about it, we go all in. If you find yourself diving headfirst into new projects, courses, or plans, take a minute to breathe and force yourself to spend more time than usual considering your options. Is the new thing really that important? Do you have to start working on it right this second? Or could you set it aside until you finish working on the goals you've currently set for yourself? Now that most businesses are on social media, it's easy to get swept up by subtle marketing tactics and feel that sense of artificial urgency. Make sure you're taking the appropriate time to evaluate every new thing that gets you feeling excited. Is this really what you want to do? Or is the marketing just that good? consider the cost of switching goals. Sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So we leave that at this point. I would like to invite you to really go in and find out what are your unique strengths. What is it that comes natural to you that you don't need to try very hard? Why is that important? Because we want to manage our resources well. The less energy it takes from you and the more energy the doing of the tasks required give you. For example, if you're a real estate agent, if you generally like to speak to people on the phone, in person, showing them around, driving out to properties, that might be a great opportunity for you. You want to find out what are your natural strengths and weaknesses. And then what is entailed, not the end goal of that, but the doing of the business. If you still want to do Amazon FBA or any kind of online endeavor, you will have to make peace with that you will be spending at least 8 hours per day online with intense focus. So you want to pick an opportunity that is right for you. Any opportunity can lead to the life that you want if you persist in it. And very few of you watching have such I must achieve these high goals that you need an extraordinary opportunity. What's most important is to really find out, why are we drawn to shiny objects? Why is the one thing that we're considering not quite good enough? And oftentimes it is also a reflection of a deeper topic, which we will be exploring in the next video. I hope you found this valuable, and I wish you an amazing day. Stay focused, everybody.